Welcome to the Generation AI podcast, where we demystify artificial intelligence under the world of higher education. I am your host, JC Bonilla, joined by the famous, infamous, delightful Ardis Kadiu. Ardis, how you doing?
Yes, that's a great intro. I'm doing great, JC. How are you?
You notice that slow down?
I know.
Ardis, I'm going to start introducing a pregnant pause in everything that I do in slow downs and dynamics. I realized for higher education professionals, I was asked, what is the one thing that I should study? And everyone's thought mathematics, computer science, right? But at the end of the day, the one trait that is defining my career, it's communication, analytics, narrative, right? And pregnant pauses, gigantic. Slowing down is up on beats. All these things I just did are basically the trait of communication. So Ardis, that's what's in my mind. What's in your mind nowadays that is totally random and, I don't know, in a summer day like today's? Communications is mine.
Communications. Yeah. Communications is really interesting because, I was listening to a podcast the other day and those pauses that you're talking about, I listen to all of my podcasts at 1.7 speed.
Oh my gosh, how can you? Us included?
Us included.
Jeez.
When I listen to myself and you in normal speed, it sounds like, holy shit, I'm just so slow. Like, what's going on over here? Artist, you gotta speed it up.
1.7. No, I cannot do that. That's unhuman.
1.7. So your brain actually can process that fast. It can process up to 2x speed. So what our brains do is we take little pauses when we talk naturally. That's the reason why we drift off, because we have enough time to process the information that the other person is talking about, and we're thinking about other stuff. But if you actually listen to 1.7, you have to concentrate a little bit more and put a little bit more brain behind it, so you're able to absorb that information a little bit faster.
You and I should do a trivia podcast of just random facts that we know, like what you just said there. I have so many things in my repertoire of what works and backed by science or heuristics of observations, and it could be super fun. But anyway, today we're not talking about that type of randomness, but we do want to do something different. Throughout our journey in demystifying artificial intelligence, we're heavy on OpenAI and ChatGPT as a dominant player. Nevertheless, the past month, we did a whole episode on Claude, and specifically how Claude learns, and we use basically the idea of features and entities. You and Element have been grabbing a lot of Claude's capabilities and breaking them and using them. So what we wanted to do is just basically do a slowdown in Claude, because with their newest release, we see something really interesting and different there, right? So what I'd love for you to do is, since you've been breaking Claude, take us to what's happening in Claude and how you see the set of features and things that they put in the roadmap that we're benefiting from today, kind of shifting the gap or making the AI, generative AI evolution kind of fast. So what is happening with Claude?
Yeah, so about a month ago, Claude 3 level models, their version 3 of their models that they're using underneath, they were very capable. They're up to par with GPT-4 models, and I was using them interchangeably. We're using some of the Claude 3 models for writing because they had better writing capabilities, and it was really, really nice. It sounded more human-like, and I was using it for a lot of that. Over the past month, Claude, they introduced their next level model, which now actually is better in a lot of benchmarks, is better. Claude 3.5, right? 3.5 models is better than GPT-4, and which is part of the largest and the most advanced ChatGPT model today. And since then, I've been using it more and more, and a lot of people are finding it to be more advanced, to provide better answers, better reasoning. Now, again, at this level, the nuances can be a little bit different, but from the benchmarks, it beats ChatGPT or GPT-4 in a lot of different areas, right? So the reasoning, the speed, the visual reasoning, because it's a multimodal model as well, it's a lot better than that, right? And we've been using it a lot more. But also what Anthropic, the makers of Claude and the Claude models or the Claude chatbot or chat product, they have also gone ahead and built some more capabilities around Claude chatbot. When you go to the website, they introduced their mobile application, a couple of months back, but they also recently, with the introduction of Claude 3.5, they introduced this new feature called Artifacts, and it's a beta feature, but it is really, really amazing. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about that because the capabilities of Claude have gone to a place where you can now produce things like, SVG graphics. It can produce things like 3D models. It can produce a lot of different kind of artifacts, and they built the representation so you can now see that side by side, not just with the text that it's producing, but you can actually see that, in the side of your application.
All right, so everybody, what we are doing, we've done thus far, it's an awareness play. Keep in mind that for every OpenAI, there's an Anthropic, right? A competitor that actually stems from their research initial capabilities, and they have a product that is called Claude, similar to ChatGPT. And our first point today is keep that in mind. Our second point, my gosh, it just became so good. So Ardis is going to take us through the specifics of Sonnet, which is their Claude 3.5, and these new features called artifacts.
Yeah, Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So let's do a little bit of an interactive, and maybe you can talk well as we do this, and we can go through this use case. So I don't know, like think about something that you want to illustrate in your data analytics class. Like what is some of the concepts that you want to illustrate to students as part of your data analytics class?
I want to demystify p-value. Everyone speaks about p-value, but it's a number, knowing that it just means so many people. So what is the best relatable example of p-value?
Okay, so let's do that. So then we're typing in here, it's like, I teach a data analytics class. What is the best example that can explain
P-value? Yeah, p-value in non-statistical terms, right? Because what happens is that throws all these statistics, all the LLMs will give you basically statistics on top of statistics, and the horizon to make it relatable, it's very weak.
And I can say, can you build me an interactive app that showcases that?
Right. So the prompt is, I teach data analytics. What is the best example to explain or demystify p-value in a non-statistical way? Can you build me an interactive app that showcases that?
Yeah. So that's basically what we can enter here. And then, as
text. Basically,
yep.
What we're seeing is very.
So let's read the text first, and then we can go down to the artifact that it's building part.
Just before we read it, what I want to give people is the picture of what's happening. On the left-hand side, my screen has split, and I see a text alike. But then the right-hand side, we start seeing some code that generated an application like in what we're going to be explaining. It's what it looks like a graph. So Ardis, take it away from here.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the analogy that it actually put together for us. It says the surprise party planner. That's the analogy. So imagine you're planning.
Kind of like that.
It's interesting, right?
That is mind blowing. A surprise party planner. Just the reliability. How relatable that is. Like I can lead that convo with my parents, and they'll or my kids, and they will catch up. Sorry. Just caught me by surprise. This is incredible.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that, so you're going to be introducing this on your classes now, right?
The surprise party planner lecture 1.
Lecture 1. So the benefit or the important thing here is that it literally produced it as we were talking in the background in 10 seconds, right? So the analogy is, imagine you're planning a surprise party for a friend. You usually come home between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., but you're not sure exactly when. So they come home between 5 and 7. You decide to start the party at 6 p.m. So the null hypothesis is our friend will come home at 6 p.m. or later. And then you have an alternative hypothesis, which is our friend will come home before 6 p.m., right? So the p-value in this scenario would represent the probability of your friend coming home at 6 p.m. or later, given their usual arrival pattern. So a small p-value like 0.05 would suggest it's unlikely that they're going to come home at 6 p.m. or later, meaning you might want to start the party later to avoid ruining the surprise. So it's about prediction, right? It's about prediction and probability.
Yeah, it's about prediction. A lot of the things that after years of experience of doing this and how it doesn't land, such a fundamental aspects of statistics, I use the analogy of improbable, right? P-value captures and quantifies what is unlikely and improbable, right? But with this example, it just makes it so more relatable. I mean, who doesn't understand a party that the guest, if he or she shows up before, like it ruins it? Such a great way to set up the aspect of statistical testing with nulls and alternatives. So I'm already buying these and bringing it into the classroom. Keep on going, please.
Okay. So then it actually built us an interactive app that demonstrates that. So the app simulates your friend's arrival time based on a normal distribution. So you can adjust the mean arrival time of your friends using the first slider. And then you can also set the planned party time using the second slider. And then the app calculates the p-value, which represents the probability of your friend arriving before or after. So a line chart visualizes the distribution of the arrival time with the red line, and that indicates the party start time, right?
Correct.
So in order to use this in the class, it even goes a little bit further and says, explain the surprise party analogy, show the app, and demonstrate how changing the mean arrival time of the start time affects the p-value, and then discuss how p-value example is less than 0.05 suggests it might be risky to start it at that time, as there is high chance for your friend to come home earlier and ruin the surprise. And then relate it back to the hypothesis testing. A low p-value suggests strong evidence against the null hypothesis. So, I mean, this is pretty good, right? So now on the right-hand side, we actually have the app itself. It actually built an interactive app. So what you're seeing here, it produced code for us. So let me switch to the code part.
What, HTML?
This is actually JavaScript and HTML, and
so it's designed to be hosted as a website. That's why, right?
Exactly. So it's using React, which is React components like advanced interactive JavaScript, and it's using HTML and all of that. So it's using React. It's producing React for us.
Yeah. So literally, I can just plug and play on my laptop if I have it serve as a server or anything, and render a basically website type of feature that is the app, right? So
well, guess what? Like you can download it to a file, or they introduced a new feature last week, which I can actually publish these. So I can publish this.
This is very end-to-end and surprising.
So copy the link, and now if I go to a new tab and I paste that link in,
oh, they're giving you they hosted it themselves.
They hosted themselves, yeah. So now you can share this with your class. And they can also, what they can do is they can remix the artifacts, meaning that they can go back and kind of change things and modify things. And it's a conversation. And it's rebuilding that for you.
Right.
So I can change this now and I can see like
everybody, Ardis just screwed up with my entire summer. I may be relaunching every lecture. No joke. Wow. What we're seeing here, it's basically the multi-capabilities of Claude 3.5 Sonnet, but in the aspect of a more human-like, docile and smart way to reproduce content, which is one of the features that we all have been gravitating towards. So if I wanted to sound more authentic, I go to Claude, and I think now that got plus in terms of features, right?
Exactly, because it can explain problems to you and it can do all of that for you. So a couple of things, like as we go in and we try to explain like what are some of the things that these artifacts can do.
By the way, are these artifacts the new features, these things that you're talking about, the publishing, because it says dynamic workspace, real-time interaction, that's what we're seeing, in team collaboration, right? Those are the artifact features?
No, the artifacts feature is you have to turn it on. So it's in Claude when you have the paid version of it.
what we're seeing and explaining in our podcast is still not in the artifacts new features. That's just basically
No. It is. It
it
is.
is okay.
Yeah.
Got
No,
it.
everything that we're showing and we're explaining right now, it's available in Claude, right?
Perfect.
I don't have any
Perfect. Got it.
special access or anything like that. This is part of the, yeah. But what I wanted to show you, what we want to talk a little bit more about is like, okay, some of the capabilities are, we just saw real-time visualizations. So users can instantly see, interact with generated content. By the way, we could have just uploaded a CSV file or a data file and say, create me an interactive dashboard for this as well. And that is the best use case that I can show for how an enrollment professional or a marketing professional on the university side can take advantage of this, right? They can build this interactive charts, or they can build this interactive, exploratory data analysis, for example, and they can kind of take a look at some of that.
Love that, Ardis.
So the interactive coding part, like developers can just write code and they can see in real time, like the manifestation of that. You can have what's called a collaborative workspace. So Claude has introduced these teams approach, teams very similar to OpenAI, and you can work together on the same artifact, which is pretty incredible, right? So you can kind of share the same artifact and work together on it to build this artifact.
That collaboration is gangster. I like that.
It's cool, right?
Because you know what is happening as you and I are doing this demo, I'm going and replicating it, and I end up with different answers or a different approach or a different prompt.
Exactly.
So collaboration, it's literally what I need at this moment. And knowing that now it's available, you and I would have ended up with the same prompt, same output.
Exactly. And the other part is multi-format, right? So artifacts support various content types. So we'll touch base on that just a second, and then there's a version control to it.
By the way, Ardis, in terms of collaboration and divergence of outputs, my prompt when I said give me an app for that, it made the assumption that the app should be a Python script.
Interesting.
And it maybe because of what I've been asking and maybe the history it has, it took a more rigorous mathy nerdy. I thought it was interesting that in your prompt it thought that the app needed to have these kind of interactive website type of features, whereas in mine you thought of more like classical class Python.
Do you have the paid version, and have you turned on the artifact feature?
Probably not.
Okay, well there you go. See, like that's the difference right now. It's like it will kind of explain it a little bit differently. Okay, so if you have the paid version, you probably get the Sonnet 3.5 access.
So I got the poor man's version. That's what's
Poor man's
happening.
version.
All right, keep on going, Ardis. Keep on going.
We'll send you a check, a $20 check, so you can play around with it this summer.
Please, everybody, subscribe, register, so I can pay for Claude Pro.
Claude Pro. So, and then the last thing, it's like there's this version control that is really interesting because now you can track changes, right? One of the best use cases that I did, what I was doing myself is it built a bunch of code, but one of the libraries that it used wasn't available in the artifacts. So it wasn't able to render something. So I took a screenshot of it and I put it back and said, hey, I'm getting an error about this. They said, oh, sorry, I used a library that might not be available. I'm going to use another library or I'm going to use just pure HTML to represent something. So it used that. So when you look at the artifacts, right, it can do things like code snippets. So, any type of code is going to put it as a snippet. It's going to kind of format it really nicely for you. Anything from Python to JavaScript to SQL to YAML to whatever. And then around documents, you'll do markdown files, like plain text files or even structured reports. It will do single page HTML, multi-page website structures, or even interactive web components.
That's what we just witnessed.
We just did, exactly. And then scalable vector graphics or SVGs.
Jesus, this is an end-to-end production machine.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea, because LLMs can produce this stuff already, but now what they did is they said, oh, we're going to put this in an environment that can run on your browser so you can see it, versus like just copying and pasting it somewhere else and things like that.
The list continues. It could be flow charts, Gantt charts. You can make interactive user visualizations and components,
Yep.
mathematical equations, pseudo algorithms, and of course, project structures. Artists thinking about this file and folder has a hierarchy and dependency, and the system architecture of that is just mind blowing.
All right. So where do we go from here?
Where do you go from here? You just you just cost me the summer because I'm literally redoing my course. I'm not joking, and it cost me $20. I'm gonna have to start paying for this Claude thing. Everybody, I've seen many of these things and I use Claude. I'm really impressed. Is one of the things that we like doing in this podcast is that we surprise each other. Yeah, I got this thing. We teach each other. So it's the first time I see it, and Artist told me I was gonna be impressed, and yeah, he delivers. So thank you for blowing my summer and for costing me $20 on a monthly basis, Artist.
Don't worry, it's just a drink. So I'll get the next round.
No, it is fantastic. Everybody, check it out. And if you wanted to see more of this, subscribe, registered. But this was very, very, very good. And also, Artist showcasing his chops of how to prompt. It's part of the trick here, right?
Part of the trick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, JC, we'll come back with more over this, hopefully more tools and kind of more tricks and capabilities, but we want it to be fair and kind of provide the audience, and hopefully this is useful to everyone that's listening on what we're doing on our side, and we're going to share a lot more of that as we've been doing over the last 6 months or so. So
I have an idea, everybody, before we sign off. If you're listening to this and if you want artists to solve a problem for you live, email us and send us that prompt. For example, I don't know how to do p-value, and Ardis kind of went live. So what are you trying to solve? And maybe Ardis can give us his prompt genius, and we can solve it live for you in our next episode. So chat us, email us with what are you trying to solve, and how can an LM, which we know we're going to be agnostic, we maybe bring Claude or GPT, Gemini, whomever, but we'll solve the problem. So here's a challenge for all of you. Engage with us and tell us what you want artists to solve.
all right, until next time, everybody. Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed leaders and professionals like you find their next big idea. They feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Brian Gross, and many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.